All right. So the first topic we're talking about today is the NCAA college player compensation is allowed. So this was a ruling that went up to the Supreme Court, and the NCAA had alleged for a long time that it used amateurism as a defense for saying that college athletes shouldn't really be getting any compensation, and that most specifically when it comes to the suit, that colleges as a whole are not allowed to offer additional benefits as ways of compensating and recruiting these players specifically. They did recognize that you have the name, image, and likeness, and they encourage schools to help students make a income on their name, image, and likeness. They said that there was collective agreement that the NCAA said that all the schools uh, cannot offer specified benefits and compensation. Well, the Supreme Court ruled that is no longer allowed. It's not a requirement for schools to do so, but it is saying the NCAA cannot make this a mandate and cannot have all schools collectively not doing this. If a school wants to offer compensation and wants to offer some type of benefit to these players, that they can do so. They're no longer restricted from doing so. And the big part of this is that it's not pay to play, right? So it's not that NCAA athletes now are making salaries for playing in the game. No, it's they have to be tied mostly to education, and this includes things like scholarships for graduate vocational schools, internships, computer equipment, study abroad programs, and limited cash awards for athletes, potentially totaling $6,000 for performance in the classroom, right? So it's not just a pay for play. They're not getting, a salary like an athlete. But one of the big things that was alleged here, and it was said by Justice Brett Kavanaugh in one of his in his analysis afterwards when he wrote, he said, traditions alone cannot justify the NCAA's decision to build a massive money-raising enterprise on the backs of student athletes who are not fairly compensated. Nowhere else in America can a business get away with agreeing not to pay their workers a fair market rate on the theory that their product is defined by not paying their workers a fair market rate. And why is it so important? Is because this college sports is a multi-billion-dollar industry. Mr. Emmert, the he is the president of, I forget his first name. He's the president of the NCAA. He makes about $4 million a year annually. And conference commissioners, school athletic directors, even some of the top coaches, they make multi-million-dollar a year salary. So when you look at this billion-dollar industry, they make profit right on these athletes, and these athletes are extremely limited in what they can be paid for, even though they're playing normal regulation long games and regulation size fields, following all the rules. The only difference is they're not on a professional team. But colleges will use this, and the NCAA use this to bring in revenue, to bring in fans, to bring in recruiters, to bring in students, right, to bring in traffic and donation, as well as different types of endorsements. So it seems like a fair, at least from my perspective, it seems like a fair decision because they're not paying them, they're not giving them a salary. So it's not, it's not decentivizing going to school and getting your education. But what it's doing is it's saying, hey, you're going to play this sport and you're going to work really hard at it every single day, and you're going to represent the school and you're going to bring in lots of revenue. Schools can provide more benefits and compensation for you, especially at least in this form of getting things for education. So it's more of a windfall for them, more than just their name, image, and likeness. Because some of these athletes, they get picked up by major companies, they get picked up by major TV networks that make commercials and stuff. So their names are known, just like professional athletes are, and they're watched and tracked in the same way. So I think it's definitely a step in the right direction. And the NCAA could be looking at some more antitrust style legality issues down the line, because really the NCAA sets all the rules and policies, and they've been under fire for some time for these kind of weird defenses and this whole concept where it's like, listen, you're amateurs, and if we pay you, it's no longer amateurism that can't be maintained. And the court said no, it can still be maintained. Schools can compensate them with benefits if they want. The NCAA cannot uniformly require that all schools collectively cannot do this. So Supreme Court set a precedent, big one.
That's good. Most of these families need the money, and especially when these athletes are coming from a lower income bracket. I don't see anything wrong with the athletes getting paid what they need to get paid in order to get through life, help out their family, and most of the time these people, NCAA athletes, don't even get into the pros. So why not help them out now? Because right. Only a very small fraction of them are even going to go pro and then get paid the big bucks.
Right. If you're gonna benefit on their hard work, and there's such a small chance to actually make it pro anyway, then you might as well compensate them for their effort, especially when you're making millions of dollars running this program.
Schools are making bank.
these are your employees. Basically,
Hmm.
these are the employees and the revenue drivers. If
Yeah.
you're not paying them, well, why should you deserve all this money?
If you're working them to the bone like horses and you're trying to be like, okay, I'm gonna pay my coaches millions of dollars, well, pay the people who are actually doing the work the money.
Right. Right. Exactly. These are the because without them, there's no
There
revenue.
is no
Nobody
sport.
cares.
Yeah.
No one gives a damn about your school if you're some D3 or D4 and you're not getting national coverage. You're D1 athletes. You're getting tens of millions of dollars a year in terms of revenue from those individuals because of your sports programs. They should be compensated because you're benefiting. Everyone else in the system is benefiting except the people doing all the work, right? So I think it's a step in the right direction.
All right. Sounds good. Sounds good.